All right, welcome everyone. My name is Dharm Sidhu. I'm trained as a naturopathic doctor. I live here in Vancouver. And in this series of seminars, 4 seminars, or maybe longer, depending on how excited we get about the material, I would like to share what I've learned about the cause of why our lives are in hardship, why we have difficulties in our lives, what the cause is, and how to then start to reverse engineer all these crusty layers we built up in order to get to the cause and heal it. So that's basically my big picture of why I'm doing what I'm doing. I get really excited about figuring out why and how to get to it. I love shortcuts. So sometimes, most of the times I get in trouble for looking for shortcuts, but then eventually do find the right things. Even though I am a naturopathic doctor, what I'm teaching right now does not reflect naturopathic medicine at this point, or medicine, at this point. And even though my ideas are inspired by divine truth, taught by Mary and Jesus, I currently don't have any of those understanding deep in my soul yet. So I'm sharing my exploration of how I'm figuring stuff out as I go, but it does not reflect divine truth at this point. Maybe sometime in the future. It'll be great to get there. So the big picture is that when we have a lot of difficulties in our life, illnesses, financial problem, relationship problem, the same thing keep happening again and again, or things keep getting worse and you're always trying to figure it out, turns out that the cause is the suppressed emotion locked up deep in our soul. And usually the suppressed emotion is from our childhood because that's when we were first taught to suppress it. And that every time you suppress an emotion, it's usually because we were made to feel that it was an uncomfortable emotion. Something happens in the childhood that creates that. And when an emotion is suppressed, it creates fear, period. It's as simple as that. You suppress an emotion, fear is created. And then, of course, children being smart, they will then try to process the fear as well. So when you have a painful emotion as a child, as an infant, you will release it right away. But depending on, just want to say hello to a brave Australian. It's 4 a.m., Laurelane. You're welcome. I'm glad you made it. And so an infant will immediately release the pain. And yeah, they look uncomfortable when they're wailing or screaming or, whatever it is. But they're releasing the pain because it's uncomfortable. That's just what you do. Hi, Darren. But depending on what blocks we inherit from our parents, they will try to stop our emotion in order to not trigger their own. And then fear is generated. And then depending on our parents' attitude towards fear, they will suppress the fear as well. So now we got layers built upon layers. And then when you suppress fear, now you're going to need an addiction, some kind of emotional addiction, physical addiction, mental, spiritual addiction, in order to constantly comfort the fear. Comfort it, numb it, suppress it. We'll talk about some of the techniques we know we use with fear. And then sometimes we're judged for it, we're shamed for it, we're ridiculed for it. So now we internalize how we treat our own emotion of fear. And even though I've been physically releasing fear for maybe a good 4 years now, I still feel shame that I'm afraid. I still have judgment and shame and blame about feeling fear. So that's kind of how deeply ingrained it is. And every anger we experience, anger or blame, there's always a fear behind it. So now you got layer, you got fear, you numb it, you create addictions to avoid having to feel the fear about past events. And now there's going to be anger generated to keep the addiction alive. So at this point where we're at, we are backtracking our way through. And what I've learned from my experience is just stay in the layer you're at. You don't have to figure out the rest of it. So once you figure out I'm having all these behaviors. Guarantee it's a fear. Every single process I've been working through, always, all of it starts with fear. So at this point, I don't even question it. If I'm terrified, I just start shaking. I don't even need to know what the fear is about. I just release, 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 and then I will know what it's about. And then it will tell me what the core issue is as I go. But you just stay in that one particular layer. I'm feeling afraid. Just release it. Then you'll get the next and the next and the next. And every single layer that I drop into, there's another layer of fear to release before you get into it and get into it and get into it. And sometimes, depending on how much violence you experience in your childhood, or maybe wars or hardships, you could actually have fear as the experience of the child itself. Not just fear of remembering an emotion, but actually terrified of what's going on in your life that you need to process. So that's the big picture about why we need to process fear. And in my experience, fear is the easiest emotion to process. Once you work through your blocks to fear, it is the easiest to work through. It is so freeing to, because when you start to feel the fear, your mind clears. You can think again, you feel yourself. And depending on the issue you release fear about, you start to feel your own nature, your own passion and desire. And another thing I've learned is that behind each fear is a lie. So if you have fear, you're believing a lie. It's, I don't even negotiate with that anymore. That is a lie I'm believing. I will release it first, and then truth can enter me. And now I can choose to live from that truth. What else? Yes, so behind every single illness or accident that happens to you in your body, there's a fear involved. And at this point, I'm hoping to channel to get the information about how fear affects each body system, each organ system. I get excited about these things. So that's something I wish to continue to explore. And if others have similar passions, it'd be great to coordinate and work with it, learn from each other. And I think I've said enough. Oh, yes. Fear causes all wars. Fear causes, it's the damage we do to others that's pretty, once you start to wake up to what you've done, you know, you're waking up to your addictions, it's the fear that you project onto your environment that damages your relationships. And in fact, most of the relationships we're in is about comforting fear or placating fear or negotiating with fear, getting somebody else to pander to your fear. Most relationships are based on this fear relationship. It's not even real. It's not coming from your real self. So, comments, questions before we move on to the next bit. I just wanted to give the big picture of what I'm trying to talk about here from what I've learned moving backward through the process. Reverse engineering my soul. Comments? You can raise your hand so I can see that you have something to say. Darren?
There's a lot of, you conveyed a lot in a very short time, you know, that, wow, that's compressed. So, I mean, you can talk for 2 hours on what you just said there, but that was amazing, that it's like, whoa.
Yeah. And then I want to kind of take my time in the next 4 weeks to start to break through each of it. But I want to give a big picture first, trying a different thing. Yeah. So is there anything in particular that I spoke about that you want to go say more about this, or comments or questions? Anyone that jumps at you? Darren?
You said that in your experience, trying to feel into your fear usually brings up shame. Could you say more about that?
Oh, yes. Okay, so imagine for each of you, when you were children, I don't even remember as a child ever actually even feeling fear, because you got shut down pretty quick. But just imagine with the way your family dynamic was or your parents' personality was. If you were afraid and you go to your parents, what do you think they would have said?
Don't be afraid. It's okay. They might have just tried to keep you from feeling it, maybe.
So should we call it minimizing? They minimized your fear.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, that's one. What else? Who else? Casey?
Grow up.
Sorry, it took me a while to unmute for some reason.
Sandra just said, grow up. So, sorry, Casey, just 1 minute.
You have nothing to be afraid of. They might have invalidated it altogether.
Yeah, so deny it completely. Grow up, which means toughen up, right? That's what it sounds like toughen up, grow up. This is, okay. Casey? Sorry, Kellen, wait.
I got the it's all in your head.
It's all in your head. So what we would say, you're imagining it, you're creating it, you're fantasizing.
You're making it up.
Making it up. Oh, I love this. Okay, Kellen?
For the men is man up, be a man. Men don't act like that. Men don't feel like that. Men don't do that.
Okay.
Suppress, push it all down.
That's really
You're being a wimp, a crybaby, whatever.
Well, I don't know. I grew up in an environment of boys, and for us it was more, what are you afraid of? You're safe. You're in a safe place.
Okay, so that's again making it wrong. That if you're feeling fear but your environment is safe, then you're wrong for your emotion. Okay. We're already protecting you. Aren't we doing enough? And then, just a minute, Jill. So what Callan is bringing up there, can you see how those comments will create shame? Isn't it shaming you for what you're feeling? So now shame has been created for having an emotion. Was it Jill or Judith that Judith was?
Hi. Like if you express your fear to your parents, it won't make a difference anyway, and it might actually make things worse.
Okay, how? How did it make things worse for you?
Well, they're kind of, because they know you're afraid, they're becoming even more emotionally kind of cruel to you.
Oh.
Fear.
Okay, so like if you're around bullies and they know you're afraid, they're gonna get
they're going
even more bullying. Okay, yeah, no, that's now you have fear of fear. Fear of being attacked if you show fear. Okay, that's a good one. Jill?
We always got, because my mom created the
Can't hear you, Jill.
So
You're gonna have to make it louder. Make it louder.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
No? I don't think your headphones are working.
No, I don't think so. I'm gonna go switch.
Do you wanna use a chat box? Oh, it matters. Others? Who else? What was your experience like, Sanjikta?
My mom was a little strange, because if I ever went to her with something that I was fearful about, at first she'd have kind of a normal mom reaction, but then she would go away and like get squirrely about it and then come back and then add more paranoia and fear of her own onto my own fear.
Yes, okay.
So it would be about her in the end.
It would become, okay. So it will now feed her own fear, which is how you got your fears to hers. Okay, and then now it becomes even a bigger issue instead of resolving it, awfulizing it. Yeah, okay. Yeah. How would that create shame for you in feeling fear? How would that make you feel?
Almost like, because I knew my mom wasn't a normal mom or a typical mom, so I would kind of, I don't know if shame necessarily made me do it, but I would just internalize everything and try and deal with it on my own, or just suppress it.
Yeah,
that's how I dealt with it.
Okay.
And then my mom kind of made me distrust my dad, so I couldn't really go to him for any of that parental. So it stuck me in a corner, and I'm not sure exactly where shame fits into that,
Mhm.
but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Stay open to how. Do you feel shame about your fear anyway? Have you connected to that yet?
Not in a deep way.
Okay.
A
Yeah.
little bit, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think if we were blamed for our fears, then that will also create shame.
Hmm.
Others, Anita, how was fear treated for you as a child?
I remember I was afraid my whole childhood. I was
Mhm.
afraid, and I never said anything about because
Yeah, you
there was
learned.
no point saying anything. It was no point saying anything.
Okay,
I just didn't say anything.
okay. So you had already learned by the time you had conscious thought that there's no point in saying anything because
They didn't care. They didn't
They didn't
listen. They didn't care.
yeah. So there's the apathy that comes at you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Virginia, do you want to say anything? Oh, can't hear you. Mute. Yeah.
Basically, it was the same for me. A lot of the same things where my fears were minimized or discounted.
Yeah.
But I had to respect their fears, especially my mother's,
Oh.
and take they as if theirs were real, but mine was not.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody else's fear is more important, is valid. Okay. And that you're actually supposed to take care of it, fix it. Yeah. I mean, a lot of us children have given the role of taking our parents' fears, right? Don't tell mom anything. Don't tell dad anything. It's going to get them scared, make them feel better about stuff. Everything's going to be okay. I became quite a cheerleader. It's my job to placate everybody else's fear. Kellen.
Yeah, I was going to add on top the shame that came from the fear of being, well, I'm part of the LGBTQ community, and the shame of being lesser than or not a correct or proper person like the rest of the world. And the fear of people finding out or knowing more about you, that just wraps up into a giant ball of fear and shame.
Okay. Yeah, see, that's a really good correlation. So you will have fear of feeling shame, of remembering that you were shamed for who you are. So they're going to have like the layers as you go try. You have, I'm afraid to remember that somehow I'm shameful for who I am. So that's how you work through. So you got to first stay with the fear. So therefore, you're going to have to feel fear of remembering shame, fear of feeling shame. That's a layer to work through. I'm terrified to feel shame because. Then you make a list of all of the fears that come up. Why is that frightening for you? And then you work through all of that. And then you start to feel the shame itself. And then you release that. And then as you feel through that, you're going, wait, but it was others who were ashamed for whatever, it was never mine, or whatever it takes you. As you continue to work piece by piece, layer by layer, it'll take you to other places. Yeah. Others? Laureline? Well, how was
Hi.
you treated for you?
Yes. How would I say? I recall that when I was afraid, go to my mother, and I can recall her slamming the door always.
Okay,
and
so you'll get anger back.
Yes.
Okay.
She got
So,
anger,
if I'm afraid,
and I just stood there and I didn't know what to do. Yeah. So I felt continually having faced these sorts of violent reactions. I felt ashamed that that I had even these feelings, that I was afraid.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So there you go. That explains some of the reason of why we feel shame. I've had a facade of being tough, that I'm not afraid. And I will do the opposite of what I'm afraid of, thinking that that's my way of saying I'm not afraid, because I was avoiding the shame that actually I'm terrified. So some of us create this bravado, this whole personality that's all about overcoming fear. So let's talk about that. What are some of the things you know you do to live with fear? Casey?
Comfort.
Yes. Casey's really working through that addiction. Judith?
I can agree with Casey. It's comfort. I kind of isolate myself and I don't even go out as much because
Okay.
I'm fearful of something that I can't control. So
yeah. Okay. So there's a withdrawal, there's a comfort. Jill?
Control.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Control is one way to deal with it. You sound really good right now. This is great. That's
Changed headphones.
yes. The wireless ones, I have trouble with Zooms and wireless.
Do you? Okay. Okay. I have to learn how to use them, I think, a little bit properly, but yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Who else? What do you do with fear? Anita?
I get tired.
Oh, good one. Tired. How many
Yeah.
of you have felt that? Like, oh, I'm tired. I'm going to go take a nap. Okay. Darren?
What comes up when you ask that question is, I think I have a facade of intellectuality as a result of the shame.
Yes.
No, I if I can figure it out mentally, that distances me from it or makes it feel as though I've got something handled.
Who does that? Who else got an intellectual? Yeah, okay. God, it's so bad. I'm breaking through that right now. It's like pulling my brains out. Oh, I'm just being told how intellectual I am. Callan?
Procrastination on things that I want to do.
Yeah.
And I just don't do them.
Yeah, perfect. And then you judge and shame yourself for it, right? Who's got procrastination?
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
I've got another one.
Yep.
What if you just seem to like lose your desire too? You don't seem to want to do anything and you get depressed.
Yeah. Numb, paralyzed. And yes, usually if you have a desire, and desire come deep from your soul, because if let's say you're going, I can't find my fears, I'll say, go act on your desire and watch it all come out. It will trigger your fear. When you want to act on your desire, fear has been triggered. It's always going to get triggered because it's blocking the desire. And so when we don't yet know how to process through fear, we're just going to shut down because we already have a decision to not feel fear for whatever reasons. So that's a good one. What else? I think somebody else had raised their hand. Was it Callan? Who else was it? Laureline?
Yeah. When your question was, what do I do with fear? Is that correct?
Yeah. Like, what do you now when you're in fear? How are you coping, managing, suppressing, comforting? What do you do?
Well, I don't cope very well. I get confused, and when I get confused, I become very illogical, and then whatever I'm performing or supposed to perform, I can't do it very efficiently. It becomes all a mess.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's the freeze. You freeze, and now you're like, what am I supposed to do? And then, you go into your head. Yeah, that's a really good awareness right there.
Yeah.
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 I don't know. I'm calling it terror. When you're at that level, you just freeze. That's terror.
Yeah.
What other techniques do you use, Anita?
When I'm around people, I am starting telling bad jokes, talking about disgusting things, shameful things. I just blab, blab, blab.
Okay.
And then, after I go, oh, why did I say that? And just because.
So you were nervous, right?
Yeah, I'm nervous. Yeah.
Okay, so let's work through that. You're nervous. Jill, what did you figure out? You've been looking at that. You're nervous, you start making jokes.
It's the self-deprecation, like you go into, you can't deal with the fear, so you go into internalizing it, or at least I do, like go into internalizing it. So um I make it's about worthiness. Like you don't feel like you're worthy of the conversation, or you're smart enough, or you're, intellectual enough, or anything like that, that you
Okay.
can't join in. So that, or it's women anger coming at you, or some other anger that's coming at you that you can't deal with it.
Okay, so it's the fear of, so you're pre-placating somebody's anger by bringing yourself down, going, oh no, I'm down here, there's nothing here, I'm disgusting or whatever, so there's no need to attack me, to trigger, which means I'm kind of going, does that mean that you had competitive parents growing up? They were competitive with you. So you had to keep yourself down, because if you shine, if you express yourself fromward, then it triggers their anger from somebody in your environment. So I'm wondering if that comes from the competitive parents.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like on the parents thing, like when I was if I expressed fear or I was afraid, usually it was from that woman. So I was always told, good, you should be afraid. And putting fear on top of fear.
Yes.
Right.
Of,
so yeah,
of somebody because of whatever reason. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you're in fear, whatever you are in fear of, you're giving your power away to that person, or to that idea, to that belief system. You're literally giving your will away, and you're giving your power away. And from that perspective, from God's perspective, that's kind of like you're kind of doing something wrong. Because I like to think, oh, I'm afraid, I'm just being less than, I'm not being very harmful, I'm just being little me hiding here, not causing too much trouble. When actually I'm giving my power away to this other idea or culture or person, where they are now falsely thinking that they have more power or that they're right, and that makes them do more damage. So it's actually kind of, you're causing a lot of harm in staying in your fear. Okay, come on, we're very creative people. We must have a lot of other techniques of calming our fears down.
What happens is that I've noticed I get very bossy.
Yes.
I get bossy because I'm afraid, and I just want to put them in their place. And
yeah. So that's the anger. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Anger is a really good clue to figuring out there's a fear. You can even go, every time you're angry, frustrated, whatever it is you got, just go, what am I afraid of right now? Especially when there's a lot of blame coming out of you. It's like, I mean, when I'm blaming, I want to blame. I'm not done blaming. Let me stay in this. Grr. But then if I can just ask, what are you afraid of right now? So that's a big clue, to even just name the fear. A lot of time when you have sessions with me, it's mostly about naming the fear. And once the fear is named, I take a lot of power out of it. And avoiding naming the fear, I feel, is what anxiety and panic attacks are about. To not even name the fear. And to kind of do the experiment of, what if under each fear is a lie that I'm living in? And if I release the lie and embrace the truth, I'm going to have a very different life. Just be curious about, at first I would look at whatever it is I was afraid of and then go, what's the lie? And I'll experience the fear and release. And then it's uncomfortable to release fear. Okay. And then you release it and you're going, wait, why would I ever believe that? What a ridiculous idea. Like the idea just feel like, what was the matter with me? It will really shift in your head by the time you come out of it. Now, however, some fears are real or are helpful. So like biological fear, where your body's trying to tell you that you're in danger of some kind, when you're about to cross a road and you feel this little like, whoop, I just felt a bit of fear. because, there's somebody that's going to run a red light. Maybe you keep getting this feeling, I should go get a physical, I should go see a doctor. And, this feeling of, there's like fear coming up going, there's something you need to look at. And then your fear of knowing what the truth could be shut down that process. So you wait a couple of years before you go see a doctor, and that's the other fear. But fears are helpful biologically, but only a few of them, not many. Wendy, do you have anything you want to add? Any questions or comments?
Yeah, so for me, so I've been dealing with immense fear for the last 2 years. I moved to Toronto from the United States, where I had lived in the suburbs within a 12-mile radius of my home my entire life. And so moving into the city was terrifying for me.
Yeah.
So every day it was anxiety from morning to night, punctuated by mild, moderate, severe panic attacks. How I dealt with that was I made myself go out into the city every single day. So I made a plan, and I just pushed through it to just expose myself. I learned certain tricks because I tend to be a magnet for street people.
If that's your fear, funny how the fears will attract. That's the irony.
Yeah,
fear is a magnet. Yeah.
And so I figured out how to deal with that to get them out of my face. So like carrying a little bit of change, like every single jacket I have sitting downstairs right now has a pocket with change in it. Just to get them out of my space. And then eventually singing is what, like the first time I went across town to sing with a group, the next morning I woke up with no anxiety.
Okay. Yeah. Took action. Yeah.
So now it's just kind of situational, like if something comes up. So I'm not living with a constant anxiety. But what I tend to do is my friends know this about me. And so if I'm in a space with my friends and something comes up, like I'll tell them. Or if I'm feeling particularly anxious and say my wife isn't like in the country or whatever, I'll reach out to one of my friends and say like, can we spend some time?
Okay. Okay, so it looks like you've begun naming your fear, and you will expose yourself to the situation a little bit. And so you're managing the fear, you're not hiding from it, you're managing it. And what I would like for you is to actually release it. You can actually physically release the fear, and it won't even cross your mind to be afraid of a certain situation. And you'll come to a place, because right now, you're placating fear, like you're placating the homeless people asking for money. That's called placating. And because you're afraid that if I don't give them change, something's going to come at me. That's what you're placating. But at some point, when you release your fear about it, there will be no need for anger. There'll be no need to kind of stand up for myself. You just look at them going, no, and keep walking, which is what I do here. They won't even ask me. They'll look at me going, nothing here, keep walking. She's not going to give you anything.
I'd like that.
You will get to that place once you learn to process your fear. So you've done a couple of good steps, but now let's be free of it, because you're living in it, and it's so debilitating to live in it. So that's some of the placating fear is, I still do so much of it. If you can start to ask yourself, in what ways do I placate my fears by placating somebody else's anger? Or even placating somebody else's fear so that I don't have to feel fear and I don't have to feel somebody else's anger. That'll be a good homework to do. How do we placate others' anger or fear? Okay, who else? Caroline, did you have your hand up for a while now? How's the audio?
I did, but I can't remember what it was about now.
Okay. Who likes praise?
I remember. Okay, so we were talking about how do we compensate with the fears. Overconfidence. So it's like I'm pretending I know what's going on, or I pretend that I know everything, so that I don't have to be put in a situation where I look less than, or confused or embarrassed in a situation, or I just pretend like, oh, I don't need that.
Really, really. How many people got that? You create a facade of I'm on top of something. Okay. Yeah. Now, when you release the fear about that, you will come to see the area in which you are passionate about and do know a lot about it because you're passionate about it. And then when you don't know something about other things, you're like, yeah, I don't know anything about it. It's not my passion. I'm good. But I mean, that's so freeing to get to that place of going, my worth isn't decided by that. So, okay. Grace, there was something Jill was saying that I'm going, Grace has been working on that. What was it again? I can't remember. Do you have something to add? Because you've been working through a lot of your fears. No. Okay, if something come up, please share. What other ways do we comfort our fears? Come on, we got lots. Jill?
Willpower, instead of actually, it's like, I am going to get through this.
Yes.
And I'm going to push through it, and I'm going to, doesn't matter what comes of it, I'm going to push through this. And so willpower. Yeah.
Okay. And when you first start working through fear, you'll have to work through what's wrong with willpower. Like I had to work through my blocks about what's wrong with willpower. It's the biggest part of my personality. I'm so proud about myself about it, and this and that. And look at all the good things I've done in my life because of willpower. Boy, I had a strong facade and attachment to that willpower idea. And it took a long time to negotiate with myself that it's not helpful. Virginia.
Listening to everybody, I seem to do a lot of different things.
Okay.
To get into my head rather than be emotionally in it. And hide so that people don't notice that I don't want to do this. So I just try to hide from whatever the situation is and not like, don't notice me, I'm not scared. I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. Casey, was it you? No, Judith.
Yeah, sometimes I find I act even like less than, or I act stupid because I don't want to make a mistake. So I pretend like I don't know as much and let the other people take the lead.
Yeah. It's like you got two sides. Callan's got the overconfident, I know everything. And then you got the, oh, I'm just little me and I don't know anything. Yeah. Both are giving your power away. Nita?
Polling, basically. Go ask people, discuss it with people.
Okay.
Get opinions, gather other people's perspectives.
Good one. I totally forgot about that. How many do that? Ask for friends, ask others, ask for opinion, ask for feedback. Good one, Nita. Do you have a few others?
A lot of what other people have said too, basically either denying it or withdrawing, pretending that there's nothing wrong.
Okay. Yeah. And please have compassion for yourself for why you do these things, because these was created in tiny little children. Okay, this was something that happened to little kids. And is my audio okay, or is it a little bit? It's okay? Or is it?
It's a little choppy.
It's a little choppy, eh? I'm gonna take the mic off. Is it better now? How is it now? It's okay?
Okay.
Yeah?
It was fine, but I think it's Nada's microphone that's still on that's adding a little bit of extra buzz.
Oh, okay. Nada, can you try to? Oh, I can mute her too, actually. No, she has to mute herself. Okay.
I am muted. I'm not
sure. Oh, you are. Oh, you know what? You have two accounts, so I'm gonna remove the other one.
The other one might be a friend though, because I know I have 2 accounts and it's a friend that I've
Oh.
invited through my link.
Oops. Nina, did you have a friend?
Yes,
Oops,
but
I just kicked her out. Sorry. If you can tell her to log back in, but I was wondering if that was causing the problem.
But the sound is much better now.
Is better now?
Yeah.
So it happens if I forward it to someone, and that's how they end up using mine. Is that how it works? I don't know.
Okay.
Yes, that is how it works.
Okay. Sorry, Nita. Please send my sincere apology to them. Okay. Comforting behaviors. What else? Kellen?
Food.
What do you think about food?
Well, I also have a lot
Anyway.
of issues with food. I can't eat a lot of things anymore because of the fear and stuff that is centered around my gut. And
Can't get
so
away with
I
it.
want to turn to food, and I can't anymore. And it's a really upsetting cycle.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we start with something, and then whatever we do to comfort the fear or suppress the fear, because it's damaging, will end up not working anymore and creating his own set of problems. So now you have 2 problems to work with. So that's one. Darren.
Yeah, this is a variation on one of the other ones we've already mentioned, but kind of a sense of inner judging of others.
Yes. Okay.
So I won't do it externally, but I'll make myself feel better by somehow judging somebody else that makes it so that I feel better than them.
Yeah. Okay. So that's like the addiction covering over the fear that I'm less than. I'm afraid to feel that I'm less than, so I'm going to compensate by
feeling better than in some sort of way. But I'm sure people I know it affects my environment, that I sometimes have put out that vibe, although I do it much less than I once did.
Yeah.
But inwardly, or it's not admitted.
Yeah.
It's my, you know what I mean? It goes on inwardly.
Yeah. And it's really good to become aware of, because it's already happening. You're already doing it. So becoming aware of it, it's about being emotionally honest. And when you're emotionally honest, you engage less fear. You're kind of getting under it. You're at least being honest to yourself. This is what I'm really feeling. This is what I'm really doing. And judgment tends to be about what you deny about yourself that you think is terrible. So let's say you judge somebody else for being weak. Then that means that you feel you are weak, and you feel terrible that you feel weak. And now you don't want to know you're weak because there's something very shameful about it. You push it down, and then you judge the same thing in somebody else. So judgment can be very helpful to go, what am I denying about myself? If you work it out. And then, obviously first you're going, I'm never like that. That's because you're judging somebody. I'm better than that, for God's sake. Come on, there's nothing I'm denying here. Have the drama and then write it down and go, how am I denying this in myself? And what's wrong with that? What is wrong with the fact that I feel weak? It's just a feeling from my childhood. So then it starts to take away the sting of it. So it's very, very, very helpful. And fears, with each fear, if you can embrace the fear and figure out what the fear is about and start working through it, every fear will take you to a truth. And that's how you can have more truth in your life. And you start to embrace God's truth about you and your worth and your survival. Because God never created a world or a system that would have ever generated any fear for us. There was nothing in God's truth and God's laws that would ever create fear. And it's when we believe a lie about ourselves that was created by others that generated fear. So it's very empowering to be able to just go, what are my fears? And yes, comforting. So nobody's mentioned North America's favorite beverage yet for comforting fear.
Alcohol.
Oh no, that's another one. But yes, there's alcohol. There's another one.
Coffee.
Coffee. Hot drinks. When you wake up in the morning and you got to have a hot shower and you got to have a hot drinks and you got to go for a run, you're comforting fear. You're trying to get away from how cold you're feeling, because fear and terror is cold and you're trying to warm it up. That's one reason why I don't like the cold weather here in Canada. It's that it triggers my own terror and fear. So that's another way to do it. Food. The many ways we comfort fear with food. What would you say? Would you say sometimes it's literally just stuffing it down with volume, or with carbs? That's another way of comforting fear. Alcohol, definitely. What else, Casey? Sugar. How conveniently I forgot to name sugar. There goes my addiction exposed. Okay, Judith?
Well, when you become a health nut, could that also be a...
Oh, absolutely. As a facade. Yeah, absolutely. It's a type of control. It's, yeah, and it kind of justifies, I used to have more ideas about how that worked. Can't remember now, but it's a facade. Yeah, being healthy, being a runner, being athletic. And then, because if you end up having injuries from all of those activities, you're like, yeah, that's a fear-based activity. It's not authentic, because otherwise you'll be in your body and you're not going to damage yourself. What else? How else do we use food or drinks?
I don't know how this pertains, but like socially with other people, to either you're cooking and taking care of those people.
Yeah.
And maybe that's like a way for you to either soothe it or to hold power over.
Yeah.
And then also in social settings with groups of friends, like what are other people ordering, or I have to only eat this, or, you know, oh, you're eating that, and judging what they're choosing to have.
Mm-hmm. That's one way of managing your fear using food, yeah. And yeah, but you brought up something else. One way of managing fear, suppressing fear, is company. Don't be alone. Seek company, seek people of similar ideas, beliefs. I mean, you know, don't be alone in a dangerous place if you want to trigger your fear. You can just be alone in your house and then go, okay, I feel alone right now. How can I trigger fear? Once we get to that level of conversation, which is probably next week, or in 2 weeks, we can talk about why on earth would I want to trigger my fear and how. You got to convince yourself you got to do this when you're working through your blocks. What other techniques do we have?
So I was anorexic for many, many years.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was the lack of food. It was the numbing, the avoidance of food, which was the avoidance of fear.
Yeah. What was the fear you had in that one specifically? So it was different for different people.
Well, I was sexually abused from the time I was 3 years old. So it was, and at the time when I first became anorexic, I didn't have any memory of that.
Yeah, right.
So, but when you were asking about like how our parents responded to our fear, I can't answer that. I have no memory of that.
Yeah.
My suspicion would be that at some point I brought it forward or probably expressed fear about having to go to my grandparents' house, and was probably told, you know, it's your grandparents, like, what's your problem, right? So yeah. When the anorexia started, it was prior to having those memories, and so I think that it was starting to stir up. And I was trying to avoid it.
Control.
Yeah.
Anorexia can be about control. It can also be an expression of self-hatred and self-loathing. It's like, I'm going to punish myself by denying myself nourishment. I've seen that come up for some people. But what you're bringing up is a fear of remembering. And therefore the memory, the emotions that come with it was a trigger. But yeah, so I think it sounds like a way of controlling. Yeah, and that's a pretty painful way of going through that process. So for sure. Yeah. So yeah, not eating, controlling the food you eat is another way of managing fear. It's just a way of expressing control. Yeah, for sure. But by the way, Wendy, as you start to feel the fear, all your memories are going to come back, piece by piece, little by little. The emotion will take you to the memories. And with each piece of those memories, because I also have a long history of sexual abuse, I just stay in the fear. I'm terrified to remember. I'm terrified to feel. I'm terrified about the shame. Terrified about the blame. I just stay in the fear, process the fear. Then I get to the memory and it's like, oh, it's uncomfortable, but okay. The shame, then you're like, the fear about it can be bigger than the actual pain or different than the actual pain. But I can't access the pain until I release the fear. So I literally shake in fear at least an hour a day for the past 3-4 years. That's how much fear I had to release. And now I am in the hurt child. I've connected to the hurt child that carry all the memories. So now I'm working through them one by one. But every step of the way, there was a fear and a fear and a fear and a fear. So I just become like, just shake. I'm terrified. Again, I'm anxious. Again, okay, what am I afraid of? Feel it. Yeah. And so you get, it's the easiest thing to work through in order to heal what you're going to have to heal. Who was it? Darren? Yeah, raise your hand.
One of the things that I do is I'll get lost in a fiction novel. I will check out for hours and hours. And I mean, while I'm not feeling anything except what is being generated by whatever I'm reading for that time.
Big one.
Yeah.
And it's Casey.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just thinking about Netflix.
Yes, finally. I was thinking, look at this group. Nobody's mentioned Netflix or TV or movies. I'm like, oh, you folks. Yes, Netflix. It's a big one. So basically a type of addiction. And when you are going to certain things and you're going, why am I suddenly back in doing those things? Like, I don't watch TV and suddenly I want to binge watch a show. And you're like, something's coming up. And unfortunately for me with my fiction addiction, I would pick a book that is about the exact thing I'm trying to avoid. So, for the longest time I'll pick a book and I'm like, are you kidding? This is about a child who was sexually abused and now we're doing, can I not escape? How? So I just gave up on fiction. It's like, and then I'm like, I'm gonna watch Netflix. What am I watching about? You just surrender at some point. It's just like, you just can't escape. It's just, you just get drawn to the exact same thing. And it's even worse when you're reading about it. It's like, I had to go into my own memories, thank you. So yeah, definitely books and TVs. And we have easier access to those things in North America. Somebody else that raised a hand. I can't remember who. Jill?
There we go. So I have a couple. Social media, being on your phone.
Conveniently, right? I forgot about that.
Yep. That's a big one. And justifying. Like, I'm supposed to be feeling this fear. Yeah. It's I am totally I'm totally justified by being afraid, which doesn't allow you to actually get into fear.
No, it doesn't. The justification for fear is definitely something to look at.
And games.
Games, like video games?
Like video games and like video games. Games on your phone, games on the computer.
Yeah. Okay. And you can see the society has created, our whole culture is based on avoidance of fear. We've created a culture out of it. We've created economies and entertainment just based on the idea of avoiding fear. That's how much collectively on a planet, we're engaged in it. And if we just start to process our fears, we could really change the planet quite a bit. Sometimes I'm wondering, like, how about say 1 million people, maybe even 100,000 people, really start processing through our fears, really releasing it physically? It's like, what a change. Like, where is that tipping point when you have this many people release a certain amount of fear or all of it? Can you imagine, just imagine a life where you have no fear left? I mean, at this point, we're still trying to go, do I have fear? What fear? I don't have a lot of fear. This is where we start. And then you start to make a list and you're like, I'm already at 120 and I can keep going. So I've started to make a fear list. And there must be a certain number of people that starts to release their fears. And we can really, really heal our environment. Because when you release fear, you're no longer damaging it so that it can heal itself. Especially on pets and children, if you start to see how much of fear being projected at them is damaging them, that can be quite eye-opening. So for this week, let's look at, for homework, let's look at, do I even have fear? How much? I may have a little bit. Just start thinking about it. And start thinking about ways in which we comfort and suppress and numb our fears, and the way we do it for others. Start looking at how much we placate, like what Wendy brought up, how much we placate other people's fears or other people's angers to avoid our own fear. Let's just start with that. If some of you are already on your way to feeling your fear, carry on. You can actually start specific experiments where you can say, here's what I'm afraid of. I'm going to write it down, I'm going to release the fear, and I'm going to come back to it and go, how was this a lie? So that you can start to convince yourself and develop faith that fear is worth releasing. And you can't get anywhere in healing anything in your life until you've started to process and release fears. That's where I'm at. So. And it's still uncomfortable, even though I'm going, it's the easiest thing to work through. It still feels uncomfortable when it comes up. It's just, maybe at some point I'll learn to love fear. Not there yet. I love the truth I get by being free of the lies, but I'm not at the point of loving fears yet. It'll help. So that's where we're at today. I try to keep our session an hour to an hour and a half. But I think we've talked about a lot of things that we need to think about, so I don't want to keep hammering things down. And then we'll continue next week. If you have feedback about some issues, some topics that you want me to expand on, we can do that. But for next week, I want to talk about our blocks to feeling fear. What are some of our blocks? What are some of the belief systems we have about it? How's that for everyone? Okay, any comments, feedbacks right now to the group? We have a good group. I really, yeah, we got a really good group here. You're all really helping each other generate ideas. I really enjoy it. I really enjoyed today. Okay, I'll see some of you soon for the intuition workshop, and otherwise see you all next Sunday. And people are welcome to join in the second week. I'll always try to make it somehow commonsensical to everyone every week. So people are welcome to drop in and out. New people can come in at any time. All right, everyone. Happy Sunday or Monday for some of you, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you.